Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into a really fascinating piece of literature. It's W.N. Wiratunga's Ballad of the Fish Who Loved a Bird. And honestly, it's much more than just a poem. It feels like a deep look at, well, yearning, feeling trapped, and what freedom really means.
It absolutely is. And the core conflict, the sheer, almost crazy ambition is right there in the opening. You have this fish, a creature literally defined by water,
Right.
dreaming of something completely impossible. It wants, and I quote, to kiss the wings of the ones who fly.
Wow. Yeah.
So our mission today, our deep dive goal, is to sort of peel back the layers of the story. We want to look at how the poet uses the setting, that cold, dark stream, and the characters, specifically those birds,
hmm
to explore these big themes for you, the listener. Themes of being confined, but also aspiration, and how dreams themselves can maybe redeem a limited life.
Okay, let's unpack this. So we have to start where the fish starts, right? In that stream.
Ex-
And the language the poet uses is, well, it's pretty brutal straight away. It's not just wet down there. It's described as the water is cold and the darkness deep. What's the effect of hitting us with that level of misery right at the beginning?
Well, it immediately sets up an environment that's just hostile to any kind of joy or warmth. It signals despair right away, but maybe more importantly, it establishes this sense of inertia.
Stillness, inertia. How so?
It's not just cold and dark. The poem says, the muddy stream is black and still. Stagnation itself becomes the prison here.
Mm.
There's no movement, no growth.
Aw.
And you can't even look up, really, without being reminded of how completely stuck you are. The weeds are like ghosts, adding this kind of eerie, oppressive feel.
I hadn't quite keyed into the stagnation aspect being the main prison, but you mentioned shame earlier, too. How does this place, this muddy stream, enforce shame?
What's fascinating here is,
Ah,
look at the company the fish is forced to keep, the scaled and slithering ones. The stream represents this limited conformist existence.
right. Everyone's the same down there.
Exactly. So to even dream of the sky, of birds, is a kind of rejection of the only life, the only community the fish has ever known. And that act of dreaming, that rejection, seems to bring its own kind of shame.
Hmm, I see.
So the despair isn't just physical coldness, it's deeply emotional. There's that line, the love, the warmth, the golden thrill, life frozen in the deep. It tells you this place actively kills passion, spiritual warmth, everything.
So the fish is trapped in this emotional deep freeze, and that explains the desperation in that line. I long to break free from this murky bed.
Yes.
And when it starts thinking about escape, it defines what it wants as the total opposite of its world. Not cold and dark, but light and love and hearts that never bleed.
And that's the pivot, isn't it? The fish understands its own despair, the psychological weight of it, and then it looks outward for hope. It externalizes that hope onto the birds.
Mm.
And crucially, they're not just potential mates in some simple romance. They represent three quite different blueprints for what liberation could look like. Models for escaping what the fish calls this hell of mine.
Okay, yeah. Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the poet doesn't just give us one generic idea of freedom. We get these three distinct flavors embodied by three very different birds. Let's start with the kingfisher.
The kingfisher. Okay, this one feels like raw action. Brave, fiery, almost violent freedom. It flashed through the silver rain. It's a jewel in morning light. It's all speed, color, energy.
Right, it's dynamic. The fish sees it as brave and free, something that burns with liberty, like it's actively punching through boundaries, breaking the surface.
Exactly. It's about breaking out.
But if the kingfisher is all action and speed, why does the fish then look to the hawk? Why isn't the kingfisher enough? If freedom is breaking boundaries, what more do you need?
That's a really sharp question.
Huh.
Because the kingfisher is about the act of escaping, the action. But the hawk seems to represent something else. Status, maybe?
Yep.
Dignity? The fish seems to realize that just breaking free might not be enough. It needs to somehow get away from the source of its shame, the mud, and the hawk. It sits high up on a sunlit tree with golden eyes, a feathered coat of flame. It's elevated.
So it's about social climbing almost, getting completely above the muck. That fits with the line, to soar above the boats and clouds and never bear this shame.
I think so. It's about elevation, removal. The hawk represents a kind of freedom that ensures you never have to look back down, never have to remember that murky bed.
Okay, so kingfisher is escape through action. Hawk is escape through elevation and rejecting shame.
That's a good way to put it. The kingfisher is how you get out. The hawk is maybe what you become once you're free from that shame.
Uh-huh.
But then comes the third bird, the penguin. And this one is, well, maybe the most complex vision of freedom here.
Yeah, I see
Yeah.
that, because we immediately shift. We leave the warm sunlit tree and go far in the cold Antarctic Sea. The setting itself seems to challenge the idea that freedom has to be warm or easy.
It's a total shift in perspective, isn't it? The penguin suggests liberation isn't necessarily about escaping the cold or the difficulty, but about maybe mastering it.
How so?
Well, this bird is comfortable in the deep, in the cold, but it's still chasing light. It danced with sharks and chased the light. That sounds like finding joy and agency within a harsh environment, not just running away from it.
Finding light even in the cold places. And its defining trait. The poem says love was all it knew. And its appearance, that belly shining like polished snow, suggests a kind of inner purity that isn't dependent on the outside world.
Exactly. This feels like an integrated freedom. If the kingfisher is dynamic action and the hawk is status and removal, the penguin seems to be about mastering your environment and yourself, fueled by an inner warmth love even when the world outside is cold.
Wow.
So
Okay.
after seeing these three quite different ideals, the fish comes to its conclusion, which is still quite literal at this point.
Right. It says, all I need is to marry a bird and leave this hell of mine. It still thinks the answer is a literal physical escape through union.
Yes, that specific line does. But then you get the final stanza, and the tone shifts again, doesn't it? It feels less like just wanting to leave and more like a declaration, a manifesto almost.
It really does. The fish outright rejects its physical reality. It refuses the chilly grave, refuses the company of the scaled and slithering ones. It's like it's drawing a line in the sand, or the mud, I guess.
Ah, yes. Asserting a different destiny for itself.
And the contrast it draws is so absolute. It looks up at the birds making love beneath the sun, their wings like the songs of spring. And then it asks that huge existential question. Why should I die in the dark below when I was born to sing?
Ah, that line. That changes everything, doesn't it? It shifts the whole focus from just physical escape or physical longing to something deeper, inherent self-worth, destiny.
Yeah, it's like the fish is saying, my body might be here, but my spirit, my true nature was never meant for this mud. I was born for music, for light.
Regardless of its scales, exactly. And that leads us perfectly into the final refrain, because that's where the poem delivers its, well, its ultimate aha moment.
Right. The original refrain, the one repeated earlier, ended with the fish dreaming of the skies and never again to cry. Which sounds, well, tragic, really. Like the dream is just about ending sadness.
It does. It implies the dream's purpose is just escape from suffering. But the poet changes that final line, rewrites the ending completely.
So the line, never again to cry, what does it become?
It's replaced by this really profound realization. But a dream can still arise.
Ah, okay.
It shifts the goalpost entirely. It's not about whether the physical escape is possible anymore. It becomes about the power of the dream itself, the spiritual certainty it provides.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, that's the core message, isn't it? The ultimate lesson isn't really about managing to physically marry a bird or grow wings.
I don't think so.
It's about the transformation that happens inside, just by daring to have that aspiration. The dream itself is what enables something,
Well,
freedom.
I think that's it. The audaciousness of the dream itself becomes the liberation. And that flows right into the poem's final couplet. For every fish who dares to love may find its wings in skies.
And those wings, they're not literal feathers.
Almost certainly not, right?
Or-
They feel metaphorical.
Yeah.
They symbolize that internal capacity. The fish discovers the courage, the ability to sing its own song, to realize its own worth. That's what allows the dream to conquer the darkness deep, even if the fish is still physically in the deep.
So what does this all mean? We've gone from this cold, dark, stagnant stream symbolizing confinement through these three different bird visions of freedom, action, status, and this kind of integrated mastery,
Right.
and ended up with this powerful idea that the dream itself, the act of aspiring, is where the real freedom lies. It's about finding the courage to sing even when you're stuck in the dark.
Yes. It suggests hope isn't just about getting out. It's about asserting your spirit, your value, right where you are. And that leads to maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to consider. If those wings are metaphorical, does the poem ultimately suggest that true liberty isn't actually about escaping the cold and the darkness deep at all?
Go on.
But maybe it's about finding the ability, the inner strength to sing your song, to feel your worth while you're still swimming in that deep. It really makes you question the difference between physical freedom and spiritual freedom.
Wow. That is definitely something to think about, especially next time you feel stuck in your own muddy stream. That's a really powerful